Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to Victoria 3. This is episode 16. Last time out, we added a couple new states to our land, to Persia. And diplomatically, we are working on adding Makran as well. So trying to get that third one that way. But uh, short term, two things need to happen. One, we need to stabilize certain aspects of our economy as we had upgraded our military in order to win that war. And through that military upgrade, costs went through the roof. And that was mostly because we didn't have the right goods for the military goods that we were purchasing. So for our military to be, let's say, self-sufficient, uh, we needed to produce small arms. We needed to produce cannons. We've now taken care of the small arms, except one aspect, which is the hardwood that goes into making theoretically the rifles. Let's say right now we're making half of what we need, so we have an expansion to that is ongoing right now. So it is happening as we speak. That logging camp will be done in a handful of weeks, and then that'll double our hardwood production, taking care of that. So truly taking care of the small arms industry. We still need to get the British Persia interest removed, and we have a notification as well. Great Britain may no longer be able to participate in diplomatic plays, conduct diplomacy, create trade routes with countries in the Persia region, so our region. So Great Britain has turned off their interest. Also, we have Russia wishes to enter into a defensive pact with us. For us, that's huge, because any wars they're going to have in terms of a threatening way are going to be European powers. And where we're located, those European powers are not going to be interested in us, per se. They're going to be interested in Russia, invading in Russia. And that is a huge player to have a defensive pact with, meaning nobody's going to want to attack us, affording us the ability to be more aggressive or potentially internally be capable of withstanding a more radical group. Now, the other thing besides fixing the arms industry, the military expenses for the economy, is that we do want to incorporate those two states to help bring that turmoil down, get rid of the radicalism, and definitely get the big boost economically that would come from that. It also looks like we have exceeded in the market infrastructure-wise in one area pretty dang well regarding things. But you can see the small arms is just about covered off. Cost is half of what it was, but cannons, very expensive right now. It's very stable. It's at that max 75. So is luxury furniture. We'll want to address that one in the near future as well. But we definitely need to expand that small arms. But I want to get on the administration side thing first. So expanding the logging camp will fix the small arms finally, and then we have 3 administration buildings that we are then going to use to begin integration. I think we'll probably start with Baluchistan, even though it's the smaller, much smaller than Western Afghanistan. But we will soon check in on where we're at with Makran and what we could do with them. We have an alliance now. We still have the obligation. I do not know exactly how long that sticks around, but we definitely want to get things kind of going sooner rather than later. And we're at minus 21 for customs union. It's getting pretty close. Volume of trade routes. Okay, we have a trade agreement. We should be conducting trade with each other, and that could spur us towards what we need. I think as for the tributary part, right, the customs union right now is a minus 10. Overall, it's a minus 72. The customs union could either flip that or at least neutralize that, so we'd gain 10 or maybe 20 points, but I still think you come up short. As a result, I think realistically that's the one that we would want to use the obligation on, is to get the tributary piece. Taking on their debt could be another way to kind of push things in the direction we would want at some stage. That second logging camp is is done, and it is slowly picking up the hardwood we needed. It's just about close enough now that it's not hurting us. Population has now grown to 10 million. We are approaching 7 million within our incorporated borders and have now just hit that mark as we speak here, and the unincorporated is 3 million. I mean, that's a good population. It's nearly half compared to what we have elsewhere. That Western Afghanistan inclusion was huge. We need to get them incorporated soon. One government administration building, I believe, is done now. And yes, it is. Yes, we've gone from about 3 up to 34. So now that is growing, I'm wondering if it's time to start incorporating Baluchistan. We're going to have... Let's wait just that little bit longer. I don't want the big deficit. We'll be without the deficit here momentarily. I don't want the tax waste. I'm liking that we have a positive balance right now because the gold reserves is still only up to 300,000. If you remember from last episode, due to the construction costs, due to the increased military expense, and due to the silly way that the war ended, where we were clearly winning and it was nearly done, but war exhaustion timed us out. And Macran, we ended up paying war reparations to for a lengthy period of time. And I think we're just days away now from this being done. 2 weeks, 1 week. We'll see that jump quite quickly. Now 41, 48, 55. Let's go ahead and start the incorporation project. It's going to take 10 years. It's going to be a while. Turmoil down to 25.7%. I believe once that drops below 25, we're going to see the tax waste fall off a bit. Start getting artillery, which will come with plus 30 right away. It's going to consume 20 more iron than what you already consume. And as you're seeing from the other one, consumption here, and this is a level 2, but we're looking at consumption of, looks like 10 hardwood and 10 iron, or is it 20 and 20? I believe that's the combined. So that means we're going to need to expand our iron mine as well. And it looks like a little more hardwood. Well. The Ottoman Empire is demanding that we become their tributary. Now, if attacked, presumably Russia would come to our defense. And I'm going to presume that Russia is stronger than the Ottoman Empire, but let's see if that is the case. 1860, how much would they commit though? 1110, and we are nowhere near that level of strength. I mean, we are only at 189, which isn't terrible, but it is far weaker. So do we become the subject of the Ottoman Empire? I knew those two were going to be a real threat. Did not expect this sudden out of nowhere Ottoman Empire going, yeah, Persia, you're what happens if we decline? I mean, are they automatically going to attack? That's something I don't know how that one. 8,000 a week right now is the 10% that would be paying them. I'm going to see what happens. We're going to take our chances on what happens if we decline. By the way, the intelligentsia are now pushing for a presidential republic here in 1863. That our arms industry has been constructed. Employment is underway. It's not growing rapidly, but it's definitely coming up. And they are, of course, making artillery and hardwood. It is actually still producing some small arms as well. It's not only artillery. New iron mines are being expanded now, and then the hardwood will come soon. So checking on how the market is now doing. Looks like grain is definitely something we could and should produce more of. Lumber, we need much more of. Clothes. We have a lot of things on the market that prices are relatively high because we are not meeting the demands, which I suppose is why, chief reason why we are still coming up rather short when it comes to improving the standard of living. Definitely don't need sugar right now. But There you go. Artillery now being produced. Iron is also now good. Hardwood, it'll get better. We just upgraded that. I could flip one of the factories we have short term, though, to kind of meet that demand, but prices aren't that bad. Looks like luxury furniture is one of those that we need to address sooner rather than later. But I think let's start with subsistence farms, just not producing enough. Wheat and rice farms to get grain. All right, so following that one where we have a very low balance for grain, I think wood's the next one. Eureka Gemi is where we are doing the hardwood. Looks like Coruscant is totally untapped in that department, so we can get something on the go there. Get Mazandaran as well. And I think what I might end up wanting to do, if we say add 4 more, or even 5 more, we'll make it 5 more, and then I'm going to take something like Western Afghanistan and flip it to doing hardwood as well. Let's wait until some of that is actually constructed. And after just a little economy fix, we suddenly have ourselves with a great balance of plus 12,000. Looking really, really good. Goods for military buildings only costing an extra 5,000 where it was 9,000, so we've brought that down by 4,000. That's a huge increase, huge improvement there. And the economy itself, right, that's only 4,000 of it. We've brought in 10,000 more, so we are generating a lot of extra revenue that we weren't generating before. Some of that's turmoil coming down in these areas, getting a little more introduced into the market. There's more to it than that, but Baluchistan, we're going to take these 2 logging camps and try to hold off just a little bit until as we're onto the rice farms already. Now we're beginning on the logging camps. So that means I think we are just about close enough. We can now focus on hardwood production, because you can see we're going to lose all or most of the wood. Let's see, what is our wood production right now? It's 60. So we're going to lose 40 of that to get 20 hardwood. Baluchistan has nothing in the urban center. There is no industry that it has picked up on as of yet. So we're definitely going to want to get something there. But as it's still unincorporated, Persian market's only at 55%. We're not contributing in a massive way. We have 6 years till the end of the incorporation period. We already have a positive balance of 54, and this one is using, how much was it using? 30 something, so it's about a 90 balance. Western Afghanistan's 141, so we will need additional administration, additional bureaucracy if we are going to get that in. Like I said, overall we're at about a 90, so we need an additional 50, at least 1 more, if not 2 more, while we do that incorporation or conversion. Do we want to assimilate or convert? What is the 2 populations looking like? Western Afghanistan's the much bigger one. I mean, there's 3 million. That's 2.3 of it. Religion could be a big thing, but do we want to? I suppose knowing who our radicals are is going to be more important. With a large nation of 10 million, there's a lot of different groups represented, but getting to that point where you have 5% or more, there's only 4 groups. Half of the population is Persian and Shiite, with very, very low turmoil. But the Tajik, who are Sunni, that is where things are high. So Tajik and Sunni. I think conversion seems to be, because the Sunni are the ones that are unhappy. The Hazara Shiite are the only really unhappy Shiite in the group. So I think the answer is we want to not assimilate, we want to convert. Now there's a movement to ban slavery instead of become a presidential republic, and it does come with a little bit of radical, but it's not widely supported, and the groups are definitely not in power. Our temporary huge boost to the economy has disappeared. The expenses are the same. It's income momentarily is much lower than what we were seeing. Grain still has a negative balance, but it's closer than it was. We'll still want to address that. Fabric's still an issue as well. We're working on producing more wood, but that's definitely still a big shortage. Clothing. I think short-term clothing would be a big one for bringing up standard of living. That's the next thing I want to tackle is clothing. Well, it's been more than a year now since the Ottoman Empire pushed to have us become a tributary. Nothing's changed. Their attitude, the relations are identical to what they were before. Therefore, more inclined to remain independent and not worry about that. So, at least that just happened in a positive way. Alright, so Macran is now ready to join a customs union. Let's go ahead and continue to make that push without the obligation, which I like. That should put them in our... yeah, see, now it's in the Persian market. So we'll see how that changes the market. They have 74% access on the market, so they're not great on their... They have one iron mine, they have a fishing wharf, they are maxed out on wheat farms, livestock ranches, tea plantations, opium plantations, and one dye plantation. They are 41% literate, which is similar to what we have. And they're -6 on infrastructure, hence the not full access to the market. Okay, so now the tributary part. It's -47. It's still bad, but... oh. Okay, there we go. The obligation would give us +30, which still leaves us with a -17. Okay, so now I know where that stands. A little bit more to get the tributary status. It's not a huge increase, by the way, but just be nice to kind of get them into that status and eventually make them on a full subject. I love the idea of acquiring a nation through diplomatic means. Wondering about Oman. Oman has some territory that I would very much like to acquire. Last I checked, they weren't strong, but we need to get this incorporation done, and then we can worry about taking on newbies. Speaking of, how is our turmoil looking? We're down to 5 years. Turmoil's gone now, at least, in those states. I don't see any turmoil listed here. This is where it should be. All right, now that Macran is on the market, I have one state that's over on infrastructure plus Baluchistan, so technically 2 states. Macran is over on there, so those are the only 3 places, without the full access to the market. Grain is still well below what is necessary, so we are going to want to address that again quite soon, but not just yet. Adding 2 or 3 clothes shops, whatever the word is I'm looking for here, that will feed the market a bit more. One is just recently done. I don't think it's necessarily contributing yet. The other one should be in soon, and I think we got about 350 from 5, so having 7 will add, another 75 or so. It's still going to be well short, so it's going to continue to need additional. Furniture is another one that's definitely in high demand, as well as the luxury furniture. So I think furniture will be the next one we want to bring in a little bit more before we then cycle back and add, further grain. Right now we only have 3 furniture manufactories. Baluchistan has nothing. It's going to be incorporated fairly soon, so let's go ahead and get them making furniture as well. I'm also, I think I'm going to make 3, so that 2 are contributing to the market regularly, and I'm going to have 1 producing luxury goods. So Fars, I haven't picked Fars for anything lately. We'll get one going in Fars, as it'll be the new one. We'll take the one in Luristan, change it to luxury furniture. That'll use wood and hardwood, which we are producing extra hardwood from. I'm just barely getting started on raising a couple of those industries that have to do with standard of living, and I've already seen a couple tenths, maybe 3 tenths climb since then, as we were pretty stable at about 10.2. All of a sudden we're at 10.5. as right now we are working on producing more furniture. In the meantime, we're down to 36 months. We're at 70% on Baluchistan getting incorporated. I do need to add at least one more government administration before we incorporate Western Afghanistan. And as we're down to less than 3 years for that to complete, add that in relatively soon. I might go ahead and add that to the queue, and maybe we'll put it actually in Baluchistan, which didn't have industry. It will soon. Food industry, furniture manufacturing are both getting added in, but we'll add a government administration there. So I was looking through kind of what diplomatic options I have out there, and there's not a lot of options, but Khiva and Bukhara both like us. We could get trade agreements. I could ultimately get them into our customs union, most likely, in the not too distant future, and I could make eventually a play in a similar way to Macran. And yeah, that could be a good thing. So I'm going to go ahead and pursue this for both of them, and then we'll see how they progress. So we could be making an even larger inclusion of our neighbors, as we are somewhat strong force in the area. Decided it was time to go ahead and put a little bit more into the construction center, so we're going to add one more. It's only going to push us to 13, but it's going to get things done not quite 20%, but about what, 18, 19% faster. In the meantime, those gold reserves are now flying. We're up to nearly 3 million, so we have put some money away here in the short term, which is awesome. I mean, it's really awesome. All the more reason to push that out to a 13 and maybe even beyond. Maybe we can push it out to a 15, because we are growing that economy rather rapidly. Nearly done on those furniture manufactories, getting those expanded, and then we're into another round of wheat farms. We do have that government administration, which I think I'm going to bump that up a little bit further. I want to get that done in time to, so we can immediately transfer from Baluchistan into Western Afghanistan for incorporation. So then a few more wheat farms, a rice farm, a couple livestock ranches. We have a cotton plantation, a fishing wharf, a couple food industry upgrades. Again, that's going to be good for the standard of living, silk production, and then tooling workshops. All things that the economy were a bit short of. Trying to get some parity, some balance into the market here, over a while. Wow, we get those two incorporated. And then, work on that play on Macran and now Khiva and Bukhara as well. If we can get them incorporated as well into our nation. Army power projection is going to be a good way to turn the tributary part on for Macran. Meanwhile, in Khiva, they do like us a bit already. Can it go beyond 50? Oh, it can. But with Khiva, no, we can't improve. So I think they can also push just short of a defensive pact. I think if we actually bother to do some trade, I think that's one way to get there. Adding clothing and furniture, well, it's given us a slow increase, but it's definitely not coming along in any sort of great manner. We are well behind on pretty hefty upgrades still required. Hence the construction sector. I think we do need to keep pushing that out a bit more. At the moment, anyway, we are seeing a very, very healthy balance. Baluchistan just 6 months away now from being complete. And that government administration will be the next thing after this wheat farm. So, yeah, timing-wise, it's going to be just a hair after it should be. Of Western Afghanistan after. And here's a big one. Railways. Railways are now unlocked. Now, we learned the hard way last time on how railways can be both good and bad for you. I have 2 states that are obviously in need of a railway almost immediately, but it can help pretty much every state with all of these places as a production method. It's going to increase their value. So starting with the 2 that need it for the infrastructure alone. After focusing on production for a little while, there's a lot to do with the economy anyway already in that department. So I'm going to turn away from production. Now we're going to do military for a little bit. I've got field works on the way because that's plus 10% to Army defense. Looks like shell gun will be done soon enough. We already got percussion cap and rifling recently, so there are some potential upgrades military-wise that are already available to us. Maybe get logistics and triage before we kind of move over to society for a little while in terms of our tech upgrades. I could probably use some more university as well. So much that we need now that we have a pretty healthy economy. Getting after that. By the way, we are finally under 1 million for the first time since the war in terms of radicals, and I think with the incorporation nearly done, we're going to see a number of radicals here drop off a bit. Corporations, states that are fully integrated into a country, POPs in incorporated states pay taxes, gain access to benefits from institutions, and participate fully in the country's political system. Unincorporated states can be incorporated through a sometimes lengthy process. So we are going to see a boom almost immediately with nearly an additional 1 million people. Okay, so we added 35 bureaucracy was all. We're at a balance of 69, and we need 150 to incorporate Western Afghanistan, and I really don't want to take a huge hit to the economy. Even if the economy is doing well, I'd still rather have that bureaucracy sitting on the side available for other projects later. So if we have 80 to go and we get 35 per government administration building, 2 more would be 70, and that's just about neutral. I think we can get away with just 2 more. Okay, with a decent surplus, I decided another construction sector was overdue, so we're now at 15 in terms of our rate of upgrade, which is from the base of 5. That means we have 5 construction sectors that are active, and that means we construct things 3 times the speed that we initially did, but from where we were at recently, which was at 11, essentially we've added nearly 50% on top of that, and it's gonna make things happen a little bit faster. Timing is very important on how you do that, because there's a big expense. I mean, we added another 7,000 in terms of cost with those construction sectors. So balance now, adding 2 in very recently. Gold reserves is great at 3.7 million, but our balance, well, it's pretty much just neutral, though it suddenly just jumped to something pretty dang healthy. Literacy finally hits 40%. Standard of living that had stalled at 10.5 finally hits 10.6. And the GDP up to 11.6 million. It hadn't grown much. By the way, that population that hit 10 million not that long ago is now at 10.7. It is growing pretty quickly. And with the new incorporated population, we're now looking at 8.4 million and only 2.3 left to go. So with that incorporation, it's not changing the market, it's more about taxes. You can see we're now at 2,000 as we're getting much closer, but as this rises, we're actually seeing the buy orders just go up with it as well. So I think more people are just, access to market demand's staying quite high. It looks like fabric is something that needs to come up a little bit, though I have slightly addressed that, and we are still massively short. Maybe a trade agreement in Kiva was something that I wanted to look at. Import trade routes. But has it as well, actually. So you know what? Let's go ahead and put that in. And now we actually have trade coming in from other places for a change. Lost one of our generals through a random event. We're down to 3, but totally fine. The only unfortunate thing is I think that was the general that could handle a lot of units at once. An heir has been born. Crown Prince Hamid Kajar, heir apparent politician. Of course, he's in the landowners. He is a reformer. Compulsory primary school, that would be a good thing. By the way, I have not done anything politically, internally in this episode, as I'm very much focused on the incorporation of these two states as well as diplomatic plays externally right now with Macran and Kiva and Bakara, kind of what's going on there. Okay, hello, balance 152. Incorporate 10 years to go, and we still have positive balance, meaning no negatives coming, and that 2.38 million will be joining the population, and we know that that's going to come with a huge windfall of taxes when the time comes on that one. So really happy to have finally had that breakthrough. I believe after all that furniture that we added in, it didn't fix it. We did get, yeah, there you go, luxury furniture, and it's right on neutral. Tools Workshop prepared to be made. Silk is going to be coming along. Looks like hardwood is still food. Groceries. I increased the groceries. This is just all about what we have, and hence the standard of living only climbing a little bit. So big time increase to groceries is still necessary. Opium. Prices are also pretty high on opium, but that's good because we are taxing that. But clothing and food and furniture, massive needs right now in the market for that, as well as wood. With now 4 states having issues with infrastructure, 3 states, Cran's not mine, with 3 states having infrastructure issues, we're working on the railway, and it's about it to be introduced. So yes, it's going to come at a cost, but again, there's that trade-off. And I think I instantly want to have it try to fund itself to an extent through carriage, through transport of people. But getting those 3 up takes care of the infrastructure issues we have throughout the nation, and then other things are better. Fabric is now neutral, so we're good there. We're definitely good on fruit, and we're finally pushing standard of living up, which I think is going to have a lot of positive outcomes as we go forward. Tools was pretty negative. It's coming up now. Luxury furniture has been taken care of. Not producing any coffee. I'm wondering if that's something we need to get involved in here fairly soon. But economy, stable, strong, continuing to grow and growing more rapidly all the time. Radicals coming down. We incorporated 1 state. We're working on the other. We're fixing the infrastructure. I'm really happy with the kind of progress that we've been able to make. Other than Macran, we're still not quite there. In fact, it's worse than what it was right now. As their army projection looks like it's gone up. They had a pretty strong army. We found out when we fought. And I didn't learn about this. There was a comment the day that I was filming the last couple of episodes, so that whole last war we had, I wasn't aware of it at the time, became aware after. There's a delay, there's a penalty when you change your military. It's not instant, and that makes perfect sense. You're not going to go, okay, we're going to equip everyone with muskets instead of pitchforks. The next day, they don't all have muskets. It takes time to get them purchased, to logistically distribute them to the forces, to train the forces, to have them ready for roughly, it's supposed to be about a year. So us struggling early on in that war then makes perfect sense, that we still had a weak army projection at that point. And Macran was one of the ones who had an upgraded perspective. I'm really glad we did that behind the lines sweep, as that eventually swung things in our favor. Otherwise, it would have been a long struggle for that war. Getting those 2 states was good. What we do from here, I don't know, diplomatically, waiting on Makran, Kiva, Karin to, want to be part of our nation, I think is going to largely come down to making our military strong enough that they are encouraged to join us. So that's why I've started to turn my attention to the military a bit more. And trade seems to be a good way to make up some of the shortfalls that we have, and not just doing it on our own, because you're getting the added bonus, like with Kiva. Okay, fine, they still don't want to join us, but they're cautious towards us now. Okay, we might want to work on. Oh, we can't. We're amicable, but they're cautious. Military threatening. Funny. Okay, well, maybe the trade agreement will be the only thing we're going to have happen with Kiva. In Bukhara, though, we are genial, amicable, and there's the defensive pact, D7. But let's go ahead and get the defensive pact, and that's one more stage, one more step to making two nations become our eventual subjects. And then I think we'll do something with our military again before too long. Just recently, I didn't see it, but another one of our generals has passed. We're down to just two of them now. It's 1877. We're about 40 years into the playthrough, having just finished some research here. I'm not worried about the Navy side of things. We are land-based, and there's plenty of expansion opportunities around us. Therefore, I'm going to focus on continuing to make those happen. But triage seems a good way to open up modern nursing and make sure our troops are okay. But war exhaustion, that's definitely a good one to keep down. Conscriptable battalions, and then more tech. This kind of tech we want to incorporate, but right now the economy is in a state that you add something like that, you're adding a big expense and covering that off. We're not quite ready. So let's do the triage for now. But we are going to get there, and the railway part happening now. In fact, the first one will be done in 2 months. So changes, they are coming. We do need to get that third railway done though as well. Working on raising that standard of living. There just wasn't enough available goods. So many people were just subsistence farmers out there. Doing something to boost the nation a little bit. Meanwhile, GDP 12 million, population nearly to 11, and we're seeing radicals fall away, not increase. Loyalists also increasing up to 273,000. Next time, we'll take a look at internal diplomacy a bit, and go from there. That is going to do it for this episode, though. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there, and bye for now.